It's heartbreaking to watch your fellow man in the middle classes of the Western world walk straight over a cliff because they have little to no understanding of what it is that's actually coming down that line. I talk to people about the World Economic Forum and I met with blank faces. I talk to people about the United Nations and Agenda 2030, which is freely available for anybody to see on any university wall in the West. But people still look at me like I'm crazy. I talk about central banks, and that is the end of the conversation. People are totally unaware that the currency they are using is completely and utterly worthless. People have no concept of how commercial banks work. People seem to think that when you give your cash to a commercial bank, they have to give it back. Nothing could be further from the truth, and there isn't a single court or law office in the land that would prosecute a commercial bank for not giving you your cash back. You do not own it. Once you give it to them, it is theirs. We live in a central bank system that functions on promissory debt. That is largely currency that is printed into extinction by these central banks. The only time in recent history that we had any value at all in our currencies is during the bimetallic standard of the 19th century. Since then, since 1913 in the West, we had the emergence of a private central bank called the Federal Reserve, and under the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, they have been freely and at will printing their currency into extinction. Since then, we have watched the US dollar collapse as it did in 1933. We watched the confiscation of wealth in the West. And since those days, we have watched an attempt to try to go back on to a gold standard that just doesn't work. Gold standards don't work because to be on a true gold standard, you need to have something called convertibility, which the world hasn't seen since the 1900 Gold Standard Act in the West, which ended during the gold confiscations under Franklin D. Roosevelt on April the 5th, 1933. And since then, the West and the common man, my fellow man, the people that I love and cherish, I have watched them use this promissory debt to try to better their positions. You cannot do that no matter how hard I scream, no matter how hard I try, and no matter how hard and far and wide I educate. I try to help people to understand you cannot increase your wealth position from a position of promissory debt. What you need to do is you need to convert that promissory debt to something that has value, and then you can increase your wealth position. But as I've always said, and to those people that are into real estate, no, real estate is not. It could never be and has never been a wealth position. At best, real estate is promissory debt and a roof over your head at enormous expense. Your commercial banks are also debt. Your derivatives markets are also debt. Your superannuation industry funds and your 401ks and your IRAs, they are all debt. The only time that debt can be anything other than that is when you transition it to wealth assets. Physical gold constitutionally is the monetary system. If you have a look at the articles of the United States Constitution, it simply says that debt can only be extinguished using gold coin. But we also have silver, which is the money of the people. And since 2009, we have had an incredible monetary asset appear on the scene, which of course is Bitcoin. And if you have these three assets, then and only then you have wealth. I will also include fine arts and collectibles and numismatics in that. But if you are holding promissory debt positions, then debt is all you will get. Make good choices.